We've heard about MasterChef's most hated judge, and by that, I mean Joe Bastianich, who has no filter when it comes to serving out very harsh criticisms. If you haven't seen that yet, then check out our previous video. Now, there is a man named Leslie Gilliams who has earned himself the title of most hated chef on the show MasterChef. But unlike Joe, who is hated mostly for his very cruel and somewhat personal judgments, Leslie has a more peculiar and interesting reason why he is hated. Let me put it simply, Leslie's got really big guts, and boy does he know how to whip up a good meal. And let's say most people just don't like that combination. On that note, let's meet the master chef that everybody hates. The man Leslie once said to a fellow contestant on the show, "I work. You want drama? I'll give it to you. You ain't seen shit yet."
Figure out how I got there.
Earmuffs.
I work. You want drama? I'll give it to you. You ain't seen yet.
Yeah, if there were a summary for Leslie in one sentence, that would be it. But it goes further than that. Let's begin with the drama that ensued at the beginning of Season 1 during the Mystery Box Challenge, when Elizabeth stepped a little on his toes. You get what I mean. One of the judges, Gordon Ramsay, had asked Elizabeth whom she thought might, have the possibility of making a mess out of their dish.
Who's going to screw up tonight? Why Leslie?
Because he likes to flap his jaws and not cook so much.
And she pointed and mouthed Leslie. And oh boy, like they say, it went downhill from there. Words came flying in all directions. Well, mostly from Leslie, and Elizabeth didn't do much to help the situation. In her own words, Leslie was a loudmouth. And responding, Leslie said he talks to the other contestants and not her, so she's just jealous. Ouch. Now, let me give you a little backstory. At first, Leslie came across as this grumpy, old guy who seemed a bit out of touch and full of himself. He had this knack for being a bit cocky, but you know what? He had the skills to back it up. And when I say skills, I mean really good skills, which some contestants also didn't like. But the thing is, he talked a mile a minute, which we cannot deny, and which also didn't sit well with the other cooks. They rolled their eyes, underestimated him, and started disliking him because of how he carried himself. He was 56 years old, being the oldest contestant on the show, and also the stay-at-home dad who lived in Malibu. And for many, that meant he did nothing while his wife did all the work and brought in all the money. But in reality, Leslie was just a very nice and chill guy. And this was revealed when he openly apologized to Elizabeth because, no doubt, he acted immaturely there.
I apologize.
Pull this back.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Apology accepted.
Then there was a team challenge to cook for 500 soldiers. His team had agreed to prepare chicken, but Leslie had personally preferred to go with steak, which 9 out of 10 soldiers would naturally opt for. Unfortunately, he couldn't have the final say, so chicken it was. Now, the problem came when one of his team members, Stephanie, had brought out the chicken from the oven. And just merely looking at it, Leslie could tell it was undercooked.
These are not done. These are not done. They're not done.
Oh, that one is.
Yeah, no. Look.
However, like some others, Stephanie felt Leslie was just a loud, pretentious old man who thought he knew it all. Well, Leslie wasn't wrong here, because Ramsay couldn't even chew into it, which made it an I told you so situation, and that caused his team to lose. In fact, he had the most team challenge losses in Season 5, being on 6 losing teams. Next on, Leslie and Francis L. got picked as team captains for the wedding theme challenge after acing the last elimination test. Leslie went first and chose Christian, Daniel, Jamie, Aaron, which he mispronounced numerous times, Christine, Tyler, Jordan, and finally Francis B. At the start, Leslie didn't want to be all bossy and asked his team for their thoughts instead of taking charge. But when Ramsay asked about the menu, Leslie kind of stumbled through it. Ramsay wasn't impressed and basically told the red team to get their act together.
Yes, he knows the menu more than I do.
Hold on a minute.
Yes.
Who's the captain?
I'm the captain.
Okay, entree.
Yes.
Talk to me about the entree. Sea bass.
The sea bass. We're gonna. We got
Do the red team know what they're doing?
No,
They don't.
Wait. We're still trying to get our groove.
I mean, seriously? Can you have a meeting and get your together now?
Leslie, in an attempt to get his team talking, kept telling everyone to communicate with him, which confused the heck out of everyone. In his defense, Leslie said he'd never led a team that didn't want to be led in the first place. Whoa. Daniel saw Leslie cracking under pressure, so he decided to step up, and Francis B. took over as captain. But Leslie wasn't too thrilled about this. I mean, he didn't complain, but he was cool with it as long as his team won under Francis B.'s leadership. Spoiler alert, they didn't. The team lost. After the loss, Leslie owned up to his part in the defeat and apologized to the team, but Aaron wasn't having it and went off on Leslie for being a lousy leader. This turned into a huge argument, with Leslie telling Aaron to grow some balls.
O-R-R-Y, that's sorry.
You're not sorry at all!
Christian and Christine jumped in, saying Leslie was acting super condescending. Leslie then went off on the entire team, declaring he was tired of getting beat up and wasn't going to take their abuse. The team managed to calm him down, but Leslie lectured them, especially Aaron, about the lack of respect and immaturity since day one. Oh boy, it was always drama, and more drama. How can we also forget the never-ending feud between Leslie and Cutter? Those two had some of the most heated fights throughout the season, and in this particular one, even Ramsay had to step in to keep the kitchen from going up in flames. It was in episode 15, and Leslie had made it to the top 6 still in the game, but it was almost his last episode in the show. I'll show you why in a bit. So, the 6 contestants had another team challenge. This time, it was the Restaurant Takeover at the Sunset Marquis Hotel. A place so elegant it had received some of the finest rock stars on the planet. So yeah, this was a big deal. Leslie and Jamie were automatically made captains of their team since they aced the dim sum pressure test and were allowed to pick their team members out of the remaining 4 contestants. Jamie made Christian her first pick, while Leslie went with Elizabeth. Jamie picked Courtney next, and Leslie was left with Cutter. These two had not really been the best of colleagues, so this was going to be a challenge. Both teams had the huge task of feeding a big dinner event with over 50 guests in just 2 hours. And guess who's picking the winning team? Gordon and Graham, of course. First, they meet the head chef, who showed them how to whip up Prince Edward Island mussels and gnocchi for the starters, followed by sea bass with quinoa and New York strip steak with all the fixings for the main course. They were given an hour to prep and 2 hours to serve, with Gordon doing his usual expediting with maybe a bit of yelling. And for Leslie, this wasn't going to be a pleasant adventure, not because of Gordon, but because of his teammate Cutter. Firstly, Leslie decides to take charge of the mussels and steaks, while Elizabeth handles the plating. But Cutter was not having it. He began arguing with Leslie about who was doing what. In his head, he just wanted to get things done. Meanwhile, Leslie was keeping an eagle's eye on everything, with Cutter thinking he's too full of himself, even calling him a house bitch in the process. And guys, this is where it all went down. Leslie and Cutter got into a heated argument, with Cutter refusing to even look at Leslie, which he didn't like at all. Now, it was getting even more heated, and Gordon had to step in to calm Cutter down, making them shake hands. Who would have thought that 2 grown men would be asked to shake hands after a fight like teenagers? Now, Cutter might think Leslie's a loser, but hey, they just need to get through it. As all this drama unfolded, the VIP guests poured into the restaurant. It was still chaos in the kitchen, but both teams had a dinner to pull off, and everyone was just trying to survive the kitchen madness. But unfortunately, it wasn't too long before Leslie and Cutter fell back at it. And this time, it could have ended badly had Gordon not intervened. I mean, what are these two always fighting about? It seemed both of them hated that they were on the same team, and Cutter wasn't willing to take commands or instructions from someone he called a loser and a sad excuse of a man. This is where Gordon had to wear his big cape and play superhero to save the day. He had to call the men out and make them see hungry customers who were yet to be served. And eventually, Leslie had to swallow his pride, and Cutter had to hide his hate for Leslie till the end of the night. Finally, let's get into the most controversial and most talked about part of Season 5, the salt incident. During the semi-finals, with Leslie, Courtney, and Elizabeth battling it out to emerge winner, Leslie baked a cake but used salt instead of sugar. No, let me rephrase that. Mistakenly used salt instead of sugar. Yeah, you heard that right. When the episode aired, people couldn't stop talking about it. Some were throwing around the idea that Leslie's reaction was swayed by his TV experience, maybe even working hand in hand with the producers. On the flip side, people raised their eyebrows, wondering if Courtney's win was the real deal, or if some behind-the-scenes shenanigans were at play. When invited to an interview, he was asked the same question again, and his response was just one sentence. Till this day, I still don't know. Well, what do you guys think?